So you should have like the head of the laboratory, micro teaching laboratory, and then you have to report to the, and then you will be scheduled to do micro teaching. And also it's more sophisticated to not only one teacher, but let's say like more than one or to assess your micro teaching. That is done in like in the teaching training college, or now they are becoming university. Yeah. No longer teacher training college, IKEP, but they have the same level like Undip university, yeah, which is more what bergengsi, you mean sophisticated, or yeah, what do you call for? So being student of IKEP, you make feel more inferior. But if you are the students of university, you will feel prouder. Yeah. Or just IKEP, meaning the, but different from like Finland or Norway, or so being a teacher is very prestigious. Yeah. Yeah, what I mean is prestigious, less prestigious. If so, that is why now like institute, like the teacher training college, so they have transformed themselves to be a university. Let's say like the what under the department Ministry of Religion, so they used to have label IAIN, Institut Agama Islam Negeri, ya, IAIN, or UIN, now become UIN, what Islamic State University or something like that. And for teacher training college, they have like, let's say like the UNES, itu Semarang State University, ya. Different from Diponegoro University without mentioning the city. But for ex-IKIP, ex-teacher training college, they always mention the city like IKIP Malang. So their name now is Malang State University. So the translation is the unfortunate university. You know the meaning of Malang in Indonesian? Malang meaning unfortunate. Universitas Negeri Malang meaning the unfortunate state university. That is for a joke ya. Jadi Malang itu unfortunate, tidak beruntung gitu ya. So if you stay here, and then you can distinguish between ex teacher training college, and in fact they focus on the education, yeah, or yeah, teaching. And now they have two concentration or two majors. One is applied, second is pure. So they have to what? To fit, or what you say, two, yeah, two majors. One is like Undip, Diponegoro University, meaning pure science, and second is applied science. So let's say you have English department, and then they split into two majors. One is applied, yeah, applied English, meaning in the education, and second the pure, what do you call, non-teaching. So you study literature like drama, novel, poetry, and so on. The story of British literature, American literature, and for linguistics, so you have like syntax and morphology, phonology, and so on. But for the education, so you concentrate on the teaching methods from beginning. So it is kind of the what dilemma between whether so if you study at Undip, meaning the focus is on the substance, meaning what the science or pure science, but the method uh, is not is not prior, prioritized. Yeah. Unlike IKIP, let's say if you are the students of Faculty of Engineering, so the focus is on the way you are teaching in engineering. So the substance is not so what deep or so perfect as the students of like Undip, yeah, Diponegoro taking science. You know what I mean? Pure science and applied science. Yeah. So now ex-equip for teacher training college, so they have two matches, yeah. But Undip only one. That is the one trend or one one foot, ya, satu kaki. So like me, so I am the only person lecturer who took language education, but my colleagues, my friends like Pak Agus, Budeli, and others, so they are taking pure linguistics. Only me, the only persons, the only lecturer taking language education, the meaning applied linguistics. So I belong to the what exception, yeah. The what? Yeah, okay. So today we will discuss the second chapter and will be presented by group 2, yeah, about the first language acquisition. Is it right, Arvina?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the one the presenters.
Today's
Francis.
presentation is Francisca and Iponda, sir.
Okay, Francisca and
Iponda.
Iponda.
Ifonda.
Okay, yeah. Okay, please prepare yourself.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Aduh, mati kutu lah. Aduh. Listriknya mati. Payah.
Sir, sorry.
Hello?
Hello, sir. Should we
Yeah.
start for 2, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
So should we start now, sir?
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Oh, yeah.
So should we start now?
Okay, yeah, you can start now.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, sir. So for today's teaching method class, for this very nice Saturday session, we are going to present about first language acquisition, which will be presented by Group 2 that consists of me, Francisca Inapaskawur, and Anisia Ivonda Seran. And in this chapter, it is designed to outline the theories and also the issues in the first language acquisition, which we can build an understanding of the second language acquisition. So first, we have to know what is first language acquisition first. So first language acquisition is the first words that child speaks or says, and it's the process by which the child learns, speaks, write, and it is the initial stages of language development in humans infants. So children begin learning their language since they are babies
Sorry,
with
please move your PowerPoint. Please
on
move.
Oh, not yet, sir.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah.
With yeah, as I said before that, since they are babies with uncorrected grammar until they are after going to school, and let's see here, children have a remarkable ability to communicate. So, how do children communicate? So, they are from small babies. Children babble and coo and cry, vocally and non vocally send messages and receive messages. And then from end of first year, children start to imitate words and speech sounds, and about this time use their first words. And then from the 18 months, their vocabulary in terms of words has increased and are beginning to use two-word, three-word utterances as known as telegraphic utterances. Or we can say that it is like words that are used usually like a noun and a verb, or an adjective or a noun, and yeah, something kind of like that. Then from 3 years, children can comprehend an incredible quantity of linguistic input. They also chatter nonstop. And then from school age, children start to internalize increasingly complex structures, expand their vocabulary, and sharpen their communication skills. And they also learn to social functions of their language. So in their creativity and their fluency continues into this school age. And also it is like they not only learn what to say but also what not to say. And then so there are three such points that are explained in this chapter in the Brown's book. From the theories of first language acquisition, there are three positions in first language acquisition, which are behavioral approaches, and then the second is nativist approaches, and then functional approaches. So let's take a look at the first approaches. First is behavioral approaches. Children come into this world with a tabula rasa, or a clean slate, bearing no preconceived notions about the world or about language. Or we can say that tabula rasa is where individuals are born without uh, without any language, or without their language or built-in mental content that comes from experience and also the perception. And then these children are then shaped by the environment and slowly conditioned through various schedules of reinforcement. And then the behavioral approach focuses on the observable responses and its associations with the events in the world surrounding them. And then the effective language behavior to be production of correct responses to stimuli. So if a particular response is reinforced, it then becomes habitual or conditioned. And then about the behaviorists, there are or researchers as so let's take a look at here. Imitation. It is a word which part or synthesis example. What we would you like some biscuits and juice? And the child really that biscuit and juice. It is like word repetition of someone else's utterance. It is repetitive. For example, like I can do it, you can do it, we can do it. So it is like repetitive manipulation of form. And basically, behavior approaches is proposed by Skinner. So it Skinner's theory was an extension of his general theory of learning by operant conditioning. So in here, operant conditioning, it refers to conditioning in which the organism or human being emits a response or operant utterance without observable stimuli, that operand is maintained by reinforcement. Behavior is controlled by its consequences. When consequences are rewarding, behavior is maintained and is increased in strength. When consequences are punishing, or when there is a total lack of reinforcement, the behavior is weakened and eventually extinguished. Also, there are others behavioristic theories that propose some theoretical positions. So one of these positions is like from Charles Osgood, which is mediation theory. Meaning was accounted for by the claim that the linguistic stimulus, a word or sentence, elicit a mediating response that is self-stimulating. Charles Osgood, 1953 and 1957, called it a representational mediation process, a process that is really covert and invisible. In fact, some ways mediation theory was really a rational or cognitive theory masquerading as behavioristic. And yet, another attempt to account for this first language acquisition within a behavioral framework was made by also Jenkins and Palermo is 1964. They claim that the child may acquire frames of a linear pattern of sentence elements and learn the stimulus response equivalences that can be substituted within each frame. Imitation was an important aspect of establishing stimulus response associations. So basically, behavior approach is more related to that's how the children learn language by uttering words or phrases, getting a positive reinforcement, and also, yeah, that's how language comes to be. And about the second approaches, which is nativist approaches, this theory was proposed by Noam Chomsky. The term nativist derives from the fundamental assertion that language acquisition is innately determined, that we are born with genetic capacity that allows us to have a systematic perception of the language around us, which results in the construction of an internalized language system. And then he claims that human beings are born with a built-in device of some kind that predisposes them to acquire language. And then this device is called the little black box or language acquisition device or LID. The importance of LID is the imaginary black box that is located somewhere in the brain, and then in order for the LID to work, a child needs access to samples of a natural language, which serves as a trigger to activate the device. Once the LID is activated, the child is able to discover the structure of the language by matching basic knowledge of grammar with the structures of language in the environment. And then universal grammar. This is the new term for language acquisition device. And then also from McNeill in 1966 in this Brown's book that is written describe LAD as consisting of four innate linguistic properties. So first is the ability to distinguish speech sounds from other sounds in the environment, and then the ability to organize linguistic data into various classes that can later be reformed, and then knowledge that only a certain kind of linguistic system is possible and that other kinds are not, and then the ability to engage in constant evaluation of developing linguistic system so as to construct the simplest possible system out of the available linguistic input. And more recently, researchers focuses on what has come to be known as universal grammar. So, what did the universal grammar attempt to discover is that all children, regardless of their environmental stimuli or the language they hear around them, bring to language acquisition process. So this the study in the universal grammar look at question formation like word order or any clauses, subject relation, and other grammatical phenomena. For example, like a baby can tell the difference between the words mom and mop, mom from MOM and mop MOP, for instance, without actually knowing what the two words mean. And then, like, second is pivot grammars. The early grammars of child language were referred to as pivot grammars. It was commonly observed that the child's first two word utterances seem to manifest two separate word classes and not simply two words strung together at random. So it is a type of simple grammar displayed in the early stages of the two-word stage, and a small child here has relatively few pivot words in his or her vocab but uses them often and always in the same position relative to the open word. Open words here means like used frequently less, but the child learns more of them and can use them anywhere in a phrase. For example, like more juice, uh, and then light off. So the pivot grammars here, like the words from more and the juice, it is the open words. And then the next, it is about parallel distributed processing or PDP that related to connectionism. Neurons in the brain form multiple connections which enable to process many segments and levels of language, which are cognition, affect, and perception. Thus, a child's linguistic performance may be the result of many levels of simultaneous neural interconnections rather than a serial process of one rule being applied, then another, and so forth. So, according to PDP model, it is a sentence. It's not governed by a series of rules. Rather, it is the result of simultaneous interconnection of a multitude of brain cells. So, this model claims that neurons in the brain form multiple connections. Like each 100 billion nerve cells may be linked to as many as 10,000 of its counterparts. And next slide. So for all of the approaches within this nativist approach have made at least three important contributions to our understanding of the first language acquisition process. First is freedom from the restrictions of the so-called scientific method. It is like to explore the unseen, unobservable, underlying abstract linguistic structure being developed in the child. And then potential properties of universal grammar. It is through which we can better understand not just language acquisition but also the nature of human languages in general. And then the systematic description. This is from systematic description from of the child's linguistic as the either rule govern or of operating out of parallel distributed processing capacities that result of experiential establishment of the connectionism. And then about the last approach, this is the functional approach. Uh, It is a move even more deeply into the essence of language. So two emphases have emerged. The first is researchers begin to see that language was one manifestation of the cognitive and affective ability to deal with the world, with others, and with the self. And then the generative rules were abstract formal, explicit, and quiet logical, but don't deal with the forms of language and not with the deeper functional levels of meaning constructed from social interaction. And then there are two measures facets to language development involved with the pose of function and forms. First is functional level development is paced by the growth of conceptual and communicative capacities operating in conjunction with innate schemas of connection, cognition. And then the second is formal level development is paced by the growth of perceptual and information processing capacities operating in conjunction with innate schemas of grammar. So in simple terms, what children know will determine what they learn about the code for both speaking and understanding the messages and the information. And then about the issues and in first language acquisition will be presented by Ivonda.
Thank you, Francisca.
Yes.
So, okay. So I'll continue for the next part, the next and the last part, which is issues in first language acquisition. There are 10 issues. The first one is competence and performance. Competence here refers to one's underlying knowledge of a system, event, or fact. It is non-observable ability to do something or to perform something. In language, we can see in its rules of grammar or its vocabulary and all pieces of language and how those pieces are fit together. And the second is performance. It is overly observable and concrete manifestation or realization of competence. It is the actual doing of something like walking, singing, dancing, and speaking. In language, there are two parts, actual production and comprehension. Actual production for performance is like speaking and writing, and for comprehension is listening and reading. And the next slide, please. Okay, so here are the issue for the competence and performance. The competence performance model has not met with the universal acceptance. The major criticism of model focused on the nation that competence. So the issue here lies on the competence. As defined by Chomsky, a competence consists of the abilities of an idealized hearer speaker. This statement was supported by Taron in 1988. Pointed out that idealizing the language user disclaims responsibility for a number of linguistic goofs and slips of the tongue that may well arise from the context within which a person is communicating. So the example here is, in another words, Theron said that a child's or maybe adult slips or hesitation or self-correction is known as a heterogeneous competence ability. So when somehow we speak, our tongue can slip. I mean, like the slip of our tongue. For example, when we hear as a child say a word hall and toilet. Okay, I will write it the words in the chat box. Hall and toilet. Toil. Yeah. The pronunciation is similar, and when we hear the child say these words, me as adult may think that this child knows the difference between these two words, but probably it's the slip of the tongue. So this child doesn't really know the difference between the words. So that's why there is an issue of performance here. And the next. Okay, the two is comprehension and production. The second issue is comprehension and production. Production is more directly observable, but comprehension is much performance, a willful act. In child language, most observational research evidence points to the general superiority of comprehension over production. Children seem to understand more than they actually produce. It means that a child may understand a sentence or a word, but she or he couldn't produce it. For example, there's a girl named Lisa. Okay, her name is Lisa, but he said her name as Lita. And when people call her Lita, he said no, no Lita, but Lita. Actually, he said the same sound, and then her mom just correct, oh, it's Lisa, and this girl also agrees that yeah, Lita. So in this phenomenon, we can see that this girl knows the difference between s sound and th sound, but she couldn't produce or she couldn't say it. She couldn't say it. That's also known as one of phenomenon in phonological development. Okay, and the next is nature or nurture. Nativism, as previously explained by Francisca, nativism contend that a child is born with an innate knowledge or predisposition toward language, and that this innate property, that LED or UG, is universal in all human beings. This is from nativist point of view. But let's see for the second paragraph. The scientists argue that what is innate, take a look for the last line, what is innate is grammatical or linguistic at all. And then for the third paragraph, nature and nurture controversy. So what are those behaviors that nature provides innately in some sort of predetermined biological timetable? And what are those behaviors they are by environmental exposure to nature, by teaching, learn, and internalize. So nature and nurture controversy here was well explained by an expert named Derek Bickerton. Actually, there is a balance between nature or nurture. He said that human beings are by programmed. So when it means that we are human, we proceed from stage to stage. Like a flower, we can bloom. We can bloom when it's time. So in human, people are innately programmed to release or bloom certain properties of language at certain developmental ages. That's the explanation for nature or nurture. And the fourth is universal. This claim that language is universally acquired in the same manner, and moreover that deep structure of language and its deepest level may be common to all languages. Universal grammar research is centered around what have come to be known as principles and parameters. Principles are invariable characteristics of human language that appear to apply to all language universally, and parameters determine way in which languages can vary. For example, of universal here is languages are either head first or head last in a sentence. Head first, for example, in English, and in English in a sentence we have subject, verb, and subject, predicate, and object. Verb is in the middle of a sentence, and for the head last, from the book, it said that from Japan, for example, in Japanese, the sentence order is from subject, object, and verb, and that's why it said that English is head first and Japanese is head last. Okay. And next, systemicity and variability. One of the assumptions of good deal current research on child language is systemicity on the process of acquisition. And from pivot grammar tree to 3 and 4 words utterances and to full sentences of almost intermediate length, children exhibit a remarkable ability to infer the phonological, structural, lexical, and semantic child of language. So these two statements believe or state that child language acquisition is systematicity or systematical. And let's see for the third paragraph, but the midst of all this systematicity, there's an equally remarkable amount of variability in the process of learning. Researchers don't agree on how to define various stages of language acquisition, even in English. So, example why learn child first acquisition is variability, not systematicity. Example here, children's learning a past tense from verbs like go offers an illustration on a difficulty of defining stages. So basically, children don't have sufficient grammar knowledge. Okay, sufficient grammar like in verbs we have regulars and irregular verbs, but they just see from like their surroundings and then they, for example, here the word go, when it's past tense, they tend to make it as a goed, not went. But when they enter to the school, when they enter school, they learn about the difference between irregular and regular verbs. Then they know that the past tense of go is went, not go. Here's explain the variability. Okay, the sixth. The sixth is language and thought. Thought and language were seen as a two distinct cognitive operations that grow together. The issue at stake in child language acquisition is to determine how thought affects language, how language affects thought, and how linguistics can best describe and account for the interaction of the two. Research has pointed to the fact that the cognitive and linguistic development are intricately intertwined with dependency in both directions. And we do know that language is a way of life. It is a foundation of our being and interacts simultaneously with thoughts and feeling. So language and thought is intertwined one another. And the seventh is imitation. We think that children typically as imitators or mimics, and then conclude that imitation is one of the important strategies a child uses in acquisition of language. Well, that conclusion is not inaccurate on a global level. Research has shown that echoing is particularly silent strategy in early language learning and an important aspect of early phonological acquisition. So it's more like echoing than mimicking or imitating. But imitation is also consonant with behavioral principle of language acquisition, principle relevant at least to the earliest stages. Next. Behaviorists classify two types of imitation. First is surface structure imitation, where a person repeats or mimics the surface things attending to the phonological code rather than semantic code. It is the level of imitation that enables an adult to repeat random numbers of nonsense syllables or even to nonsense syllables. Surface structure imitation is more like a repetition of sounds by students without the figures what sounds might possibly mean. So they just repeat, they just follow, but they don't really understand the meaning of that sound. While the second is imitation of the deep structure, it's the opposite of the surface one. The imitation of the deep structure of language can literally block their attention to the surface structure so that they become on the face of it or poor imitators. The example is in the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you, Ina. This is the example for the deep structure. let's see, for the first conversation, child and mother, the child say, nobody don't like me. And the mother answer, no, say, nobody likes me. The child keep saying, nobody don't like me. And the mother keep correcting, no, now listen carefully, say, nobody likes me. And again, the child say, no, nobody don't likes me. So if we see here, it's grammatically incorrect. But what the child tried to convey here is, the child tries to convey here is not the sentence, but the here his or her emotion. So it's not like the just the repetition of sounds, but more like the truth value of his or her utterance. Okay, and the next, the eighth is practice and frequency. Yeah, okay. It is a it is common to observe that children conclude that they practice language constantly, especially in the early stages of a single word, and then toward utterances and so on. A behavioral model of first language acquisition would claim that practice, repetition, and association is the key to the formation of habits by operant conditioning. The frequency issue may be summed up by noting that nativists who claim that the relative frequency of stimuli is of little importance in language acquisition. It will appear that the frequency of meaningful occurrence may well be more precise refinement of the notion of frequency. So in this issue, we can see that it's tried to state that frequency is also important for a child when they acquiring their first language. It is totally show that it shows that it's against the statement or the belief of nativists. And the next, okay, it's input. The speech that young children hear is primarily the speech heard in the home, and much of that speech is parental speech or the speech of other siblings. So input and imitation have similarities, I think. The importance of issue lies in the fact that it's clear from more recent research that adult and peer input to the child is far more important than nativists earlier believed. So this is again it against the belief or argue the statement of nativist approach or nativist belief. Adult input seems to shape the child's acquisition, and the interaction patterns between child and parents change according increasing language skills of the child. Nurture, and environment in this case are tremendously important, although it remains to be seen just how important parental input as a proportion of total input. I think you can read it yourself if it's still not really clear. And the last one, please. Yeah, the last one is discourse. Here's there are statement from Gleason 1982. While it is used to be generally held the mere exposure to language is sufficient to set the child's language generating machinery in motion, it is not clear that in order to successful first language acquisition to take place, interaction rather than exposure is required. Children don't learn language from overhearing the conversation of others or from listening to the radio, and must instead acquiring in the context of being spoken. So I think it's try to highlight that speaking and listening should go balancedly. And the next, it's still supported by Sinclair. I mean, like discourse issue, also supported by Sinclair and Coderhart, 1975, proposed that conversation can be examined in terms of initiation and responses. What might in the grammatical sentence-based model of language be described as a sentences, clauses, words, and morphemes are viewed as a transaction, exchanges, moves, and acts. The child learns not only how to initiate a conversation, but how to respond another's initiating utterances. So it is important that the child to have background knowledge like the grammar. So when they are speaking or they in a context they speak with their friends or whoever, they know how to respond because they know the context and they have sufficient knowledge about what they are about to say. Okay, that's sum up the 10 types of issues for this chapter. And the last one about the summary, the conclusion will be delivered by Francisca.
So thank you, Efonda. So the conclusion of this chapter is by studying the theories and issues in children's language, we can briefly characterize the current stage of children's language research and also highlight some of the key concepts that have emerged in shaping the understanding of how babies learn to speak and eventually become linguistic beings who advance. So that's all from our presentations. First language acquisition. Thank you for your attention, and I give it back to Sir.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Francisca and Fonda, for your presentation. I suppose it's well organized. Also, your voices are clear. So now we come to the discussion, question, answers, or comments. So we can select which one are supposed to be more essentials for us concerning what understanding of first language acquisition, which will be connected to related to the second language acquisition. So many of the theories in the second language acquisition are adapted or adopted from first language acquisition. So people say that children are great imitators, great imitators, meaning the from imitation, from listening, so they will internalize all the information spoken by the adult speakers or people in the surrounding, like the parents, siblings, and also neighbors, what the friends or peers, and so on. So that is why we should be careful when we speak in front of the children, because what you say will be imitated by the children. So the point is, what we do is the best way is to give the model to the children. So you will have some technical terms concerning the theories or issues in the first language acquisition. And now between first language, second language, the border is so thin. Yeah? Unlike me, when I belong to the baby boomers, born in 50s. Yeah. So in my time, I got English after I went to secondary school. Yeah. But now from in the millennial period, so since you were born or you will learn English when you go to, let's say, like the playgroup or preschool, in the kindergarten, also in the elementary school. Yeah. But the problem at the time, so in Yeah, when my daughter and son were studying in the elementary school, that is in the almost before 2000. So English was introduced to elementary school, meaning elementary school can carry out English as kind of the extra curriculum or a kind of the local local subject or local load muatan lokal gitu. But the problem is how to hire a good English teacher. And then what they could do at the time, just recruiting the existing teachers. Because if you hire, let's say like graduates of D3 program or even S1, so you have to spend more money. And if for public school usually they don't have enough money to hire a good English teacher. So only in the private schools could hire good English teachers. Let's say like the recruited from undergraduate level or at least D3 program. So what happened? So let's say what my children got from school in terms of pronunciation, in terms of grammar. So meaning that my children got the wrong direction in learning second language, that is English, during their study in the elementary school. Let's say what I remember is when my son pronounced lidah, so he would say tongue. Yeah. Then I tried to correct the pronunciation, but my son did not trust me as an English teacher. So, well, what he said to me, well, my teacher said so, tongue. Yeah. I said to him that, well, your father is also an English teacher, even English lecturer, but he didn't trust me as the. Also, when I saw like the for constructing the test, so yeah, many errors. But for rich private school, they could hire someone from the English department, and I suppose, yeah, and they are in the right track, meaning not what I mean is they will get the proper proper learning process in English, because having the what do you call the quality English teacher and the qualified English teacher. Okay, now please we can start the discussion, because at that time the hiring the existing teachers, meaning just pick up from any teachers who wants to be wanted to be a volunteer. Yeah. Filenya dikirimkan ke WA group saja, Mbak Francisca ya.
Oh, okay, sir. I will.
HP saja gitu ya.
Okay.
Kalau meeting chat saya harus lewat laptop ya. Saya tidak punya aplikasi di HP-nya. Okay, now we can start the questions, or you could write your comments or question in the meeting chat, and then will be responded by Francisca and Ivonda. Or you could show again your slides from beginning, or if any issues are not yet clear, and we can talk together.
Okay, sir.
I'm not the like in the novel. What do you call if you know everything? The term what is the if you know everything like God?
No, but we don't know everything. The material is just too much that we
Yeah.
have to read
Okay.
it again from the
Okay.
beginning to be
No,
able to
my
find.
yeah.
That's
Okay. My question is there is a term if you know everything like God. It is what is the term like in the novel, in the
all
fiction?
knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. Omniscience. And if you are very powerful, if you are very powerful, what is it?
Omnipotent.
Yeah, omnipotent. Yeah, omniscient. Sorry. Yeah. Let me. Let's
Just
correct it.
wrote it.
Yeah, omnipotent, omniscience, and so just like in the novel, meaning the author is like God to know everything. Yeah. Okay, and you could. The slide, the next slide. Yeah. Okay, and here about telegraphic utterances. Why is it called telegraphic utterances? To the group or to everyone? Why is it called telegraphic utterances? That is
Yeah.
the like a two words or what's or two words?
Yes, sir. It the words has increased and beginning to use two word and three word utterances like words that are usually used with a noun and a verb and adjective and a noun, something kind of like that.
Yeah. So my question is why it's called telegraphic utterances? So they only use, let's say, like noun, verb, yeah, adjective, yeah. So when we talk about what sentences or so it contains like the main words and also what do you call subordinate or auxiliary words pembantu ya or we say accessory ya. So let's say like we say contain words and the second one satunya namanya contain words meaning dealing with the content and second class is called function words kata fungsi ya. So let's say like the noun verb adjective yeah adverb belongs to the content words and then we have the function words like let's say prepositions articles conjunctions yeah and so on yeah so why it is called telegraphic utterances because they imitate the language of telegraph if you I don't know the I suppose you did not experience telegraph period in the past. Anda tidak mengalami itu ya, zaman telegraph, so you did not experience telegraph period. So if someone send a message using telegraph, and then you have to go to the post office and then you type ya, the type. Because the cost will be counted based on the number of words. So if you write the complete sentences grammatically, so you will pay more money, meaning it will be expensive. So telegraph is only used when it is in the what emergency. Let's say like notifying or informing about someone's death or the any what emergent news. So you only select.
Telegram, sir?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it
Yeah. Telegram like Telegram.
Yeah.
Select the content words.
Yeah,
So
I
leaving
didn't
like articles, conjunctions, and saya sakit mau pulang atau apa gitu. So you omit a lot of words so that you can pay less. If you write complete sentences, you will pay more because the cost will be based on the number of words. Like artikel A itu sudah, so there is a price for just one letter A or the or what N. So omit, meaning that just like the way the children speak when they are in the early years on the telegraphic utterances, like telegram or telegraph, in my time, 2000 berapa, 60s to 70s, like postcard, so before internet appeared. Okay, next slide. Or any other comments? So ask your parents or your grandparents about the telegraph language. Yeah, next slide, please. So research about research on the language acquisition or first language acquisition done by Prof. Sunjono, the late, He used to be the head of the linguistic department in the Hawaii University. So he did research on his own grandchild for 5 years, following the development of the child's language, and then he wrote a book on that results, sponsored by, I don't know, from Germany, from Germany, meaning in the linguistic community about belongs to the socio-linguistics and researching on the development of church language. Also like Douglas Brown research on his own two children. So why like a young mother or mother to be or any, so he or she, or we are supposed to keep chatting to the baby or a young child, even though he or she doesn't respond our chatting, because by chatting to them, so the child would internalize what we say, and then someday or one day, so those words will be spoken by the child. So even during in the pregnancy or the child in the womb, and then you could, let's say, like what provide singing a song or certain songs, or for Muslim, so you could play like the ayat suci to the baby in the womb, still in the pregnancy. So people say that it's good for good effects could influence on the child. So let's say if father and mother are very busy, and then the child was taken care by the babysitter, and the babysitter is what do you call, not talkative, so keep perhaps the whole day only being silent, not speaking to the child. So the development of the child language will be affected, meaning it's not because the it is always suggested that you should keep chatting, even though the baby does not respond. And you know the two cases about what from siapa itu yang Lenny Burke upon the golden age. So if meaning the language is not exposed from the childhood, so you will suffer from being dumb and also deaf. Yeah. And also in that hypothesis, the golden age is when during the childhood under 10 years. But after puberty, learning language is not as effective as when you are in the childhood before 10. Yeah. So there are two cases. Yeah. If you remember, the not mentioned by the presenters, perhaps about the names Victor and Jenny, also mentioned in the Brown's book. Ya, Mbak Francisca, ada enggak yang Anda baca? The cases of Victor and a kind of the natural research or research by chance or something like. So Victor is a boy, crash in the plane crash. So the parents were killed in the crash, and Victor survived, and then brought up by the nature, meaning brought up by the animals in the forest. And then he was found by like social worker and then brought to the city, trying to be educated. So what he could say, because he was brought by the natural environments, only the sounds on the voices of animals, like the growling, or like the wild animals, and also the learning process fail. Yeah. So he could only pronounce 3 or 2 words because Victor was already in the puberty, 17 years old. So there are some films called like Tarzan. You know Mas Sarfaras or Hen Faruk? Yeah, Tarzan. Yeah.
No, but I don't know.
Film Tarzan. Yeah. I suppose it is
Tarzan.
global film. Yeah. About the
Oh, Tarzan. Oh, you mean Tarzan? Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
Oh, I love the movie.
Yeah.
Yes, but yes. He was brought
Tarzan.
by
Tarzan. Yeah. So
yes.
he was the child of the wildlife, brought up in the forest. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, he was a hero, but yeah, and he communicated with the animals, and not using human language, but using the animal language. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, in our country, we had several films concerning the forest boy, ya, like Tarzan masuk kota, meaning Tarzan goes to the city, yeah. So because the culture in the nature is different from the nature in the city, meaning the civilized people. And the second case is Jenny, Jenny. So the first case is a Victor. You could find in the How Language Challenge by siapa, saya lupa namanya, Victor and Jenny. So Jenny was kept in the basement by his ancient father. So he was kept since the babies, and then she couldn't communicate with like her mother and her siblings. So she was fed, and also until she was a teenager and she couldn't speak properly. Also saved by a social worker, trying to be educated, but the same like Victor, the experiment failed, because of the. But of course, we cannot do experiments deliberately to our own children being kept or isolated for many years. Yeah. So your children will be dumb and deaf. Yeah. Because no interactions. I suppose it's true that from nativists, meaning you have LED and also UG, but also the social interaction. I suppose both are completing each other, reflected in the constructivism. So each school, I suppose, has contributed in forming our language acquisition. The nature and nurture, gitu ya, nature and nurture. So nature is predetermined, by God, predetermined. Yeah, so it is innate. Our software is what exists since we were born, and then that software is activated by the social interactions, because if not, so you will be like Victor and Jenny. Okay, any comments or about Mongli? I remember Mongli. Mongli juga sama ya, mirip also the Forest Boy, right? The film,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's Mowgli.
Yeah, Mowgli. Okay, any comments or questions concerning the also okay in a bit. So why some people ignore, let's say it deals with public ethics there. Let's say like throwing garbage carelessly, and you are in the red runners, meaning apa itu? You violate in the traffic light, and then also you, what do you call, salivate carelessly, meludah sembarangan tempat atau apa itu yang the mucus, So because when you were in the childhood, and there was no, what do you call, educating or about the calculating the values or axiology about values. between good and bad, meaning this is bad, this is good. And then when he or she has grown up or becoming the adult person, so sometimes he or she ignores about kind of ethic, meaning let's say like smoking in the public, yeah, like in the public transports, public place, yeah. They don't care about someone or other people. Perhaps they don't like what the smoke, yeah. Meaning it is because they were not educated, they were not conditioned by what that value axiology, yeah. And the habit or habit, the next level, it is called what habit? Habit yang tingkatnya lebih tinggi. So higher level of habit, what do you call? Habit, the next level of habit, what is it? So habit kind of the what? So you are conditioned to, let's say like in the what prayer, in the if you are a Muslim and then since the childhood, so you were conditioned to pray 5 times a day. So when it is already a habit, so your habit is rooted. Yeah? It's like a culture rooted in your mind. It is called apa? And Farouk, what do you want to say?
You mean, but if we are getting used to do something like every day?
Yeah, the already rooted, and you will be militant in your ritual, yeah, as a Muslimah.
Yes, yes.
What do you call?
So we say it's habit. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So plus US.
You mean the first level of?
Yeah, the next level for habit, meaning a habit which is rooted in your mind, in your heart. So yeah, it's quite hard to change. Yeah. So plus US ini. Habitus.
Dalam bahasa Indonesia apa, Pak?
Ya, habit.
Kalau dalam bahasa Indonesia gimana?
Kebiasaan. Habit itu kebiasaan.
Iya,
kalau
kebiasaan itu
five times a day itu kebiasaan. And when it is rooted, it is called habitus, ya namanya. Coba cek in the gadget. Habitus, ya. That is the rooted habit in your mind. Jadi sudah tidak bisa.
Actually, in Arabic, we don't have a word for that. I think it is the same as habit. I mean.
Yeah, habit, and then we have habitus. So habit is first level, and then the next level called habitus, meaning a habit which is rooted. Let's say like the smoking. I used to smoke socially, meaning just as one piece of cigarette to smoke when I was in the secondary school or high school, just for being social smoker. But if it is habitus, so you have to spend your money, let's say for 1 or 2 packs a day, and then you will become a chain smoker. That is the habitus.
Like addiction, right?
Yeah, addiction. Yeah, the tend to be addicted. But like the can be addicted, but also like if you solat, if you pray 5 times a day, and you never miss one, if you miss and then you feel guilty, that is the habitus. Habit, rooted habit, yeah, in your mind, in your heart.
Yes. I didn't know the word habitus before that. Thank you, Pa.
I see, yeah. So you can check in the gadget.
Yes,
habitus,
yes.
Yeah. So that is why even though behaviorism was was sharply criticized by another school, let's say like in the time of after the let's say in the communicative approaches, but behaviorism, meaning underlying theory for teaching, but it still applies for like when we are teaching the children, young learners. So behaviorism reflected in the audiolingual method, I suppose it is still suitable. So when you teach children, so you don't talk about rules, the abstract thing, but ask the children, ask the young learners to imitate you, right? Imitate, memorize, imitate, practice. So you don't talk about the rules, but when you are teaching adults, and then you can start from the rules, which is abstract. Yeah. So just the children are conditioned, like in the what Skinner, ya, learning apa itu yang namanya apa, conditioning operand atau apa itu ya. So just like because the theory was based on the animal experiment, yeah. So like Pavlov and Skinner, so they did experiment on the animals. Let's say like the smart animals. So why they are smart? Because of the number of brain cells. Yeah? So you know the number of cells. If we could start from a fly, you know fly ya. Fly itu apa Mbak Erwina? Mbak Ifunda? Fly. What is fly? A fly is lalat ya. Lalat a fly has 10 ya.
Yes.
Ya lalat ya. Lalat or a fly has 10,000 brain cells, only 10,000. And then next apa itu ya? A dog 5 millions brain cells. Then monkey 10 million brain cells. And for human beings have 100 million cells, brain cells. Yeah, 100 million brain cells. That is why we select certain animals like monkey or dog for experiments. Oh sorry, mouse ya. Mouse also has the mouse itu 5 juta atau 5. So you can check in the learning revolution itu ya. Learning revolution. A fly 100,000 brain cells, a mouse 5 million brain cells, a monkey 10 million brain cells, and then a man, so human beings, 100 million brain cells. That is why we are the perfect creatures in the world, the makhluk yang sempurna gitu ya. And you know the structure of our brains. So the first level is called reptilian, the place in the low level, what in your neck ya, yang paling bawah itu ya, the lowest part, it is called reptilian, and then mammalian, and then the yang apa itu, yang paling atas, that is to think gitu ya, untuk berpikir ya, to talk, to create. cortex gitu ya. Jadi ya, in the bottom is called reptilian brain, and then the second in the center is called old mammalian brain, and then at top you have the, what do you call, cortex, the bug gitu ya. Ini saya potretnya gitu ya. Nah itu gambarnya. So you could check in the gadget about your brain's level ya, brain level. So cortex the highest is for speaking, for thinking ya, for hearing ya, thinking, talking, apa ini tuh? Saying, hearing, and creating ya. And at the bottom, reptilian ya. It is for controls many of your body's instinctive function such as breathing gitu ya. Bernapas itu ya, pakai reptilian brain. In the center, old mammalian brains, which is similar to the brain of other warm-blooded mammals ya. Binatang menyusui, it controls your emotion, your sexuality, and a skill to play in your memory. At top, your cortex ya, bug itu apa? Pokoknya ya Pak ya, which you use for thinking, talking, seeing, hearing, and creating. So that is why, again, back to the Skinner or choosing animals for the experiment. Let's say like, for their experiment, using dogs or monkey or so using bell. So for the experiment, so you will feed the dog with the meat, also ring the bell. So because of the conditioning, so if you ring the bell and plus giving the meat, provide the meat, so the dog will salivate. So later on, without meat, if you ring the bell and then the dog will salivate because of the conditioning. So the principle of behaviorism is apa itu, Mbak Ivonda? Stimuli, response, reinforcement. So you have stimuli, and then you respond, and then reinforcement, meaning reinforcement can be positive or negative. That is based on the animal experiment, and then it is applied to human learning. Behaviorism reflected in the, let's say, like the direct method, and also ALM or oral approach. So if you remember English for 900, So you can check in the video about how to teach audiolingual method. So like the repeat after me, yeah, imitate, yeah, repeat after me, and then memorize. So you are supposed to memorize the dialogues, yeah. You don't have to think about the grammar or on the rules, and then you are supposed to, yeah, what menghafalkan, meaning you are supposed to express dialogues without thinking, without the that is the application of behaviorism. But in the cognitivism, meaning, so in the behaviorism, you are not considered thinking beings, yeah, just like burung beo. What is beo in English? Burung beo. And Farouk or Ibunda, Francisca or Erwina, apa itu burung beo? Meaning the
Burung apa?
beo. Yeah, parrot. Sorry, yeah, parrot. Yeah, parrot.
Oh, yeah.
Parrot, meaning the bird. The bird which is skillful to imitate. Yeah. Whatever you say, and then will be imitated by that bird, parrot.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes.
So child is like a parrot, meaning imitate what we say. So if you are not wise,
Yes.
and then the child will imitate any words you say. Yeah? So you could understand why sometimes a student family, yeah, a family in which or where the parents always say bad things, bad words, yeah. We say kata-kata mutiara, meaning wise words in the opposite meaning. And then the children also will be conditioned to say those words, meaning the taboo words. So I remember when I was small boy, yeah, and then I got a new words from my friends, from my neighbors, and then I said that word in my family, yeah, during the dinner, and then my eldest brother spontaneously knock my head because that word is not proper, meaning belongs to, what do you say, and inappropriate in terms of the public ethics, or we say taboo words, or apa itu ya namanya, kata yang tidak pantas lah itu ya. And then I was aware that word is not proper, yeah, to be spoken, to be said before the
Used.
public, yeah.
Yes.
So that is why the elder siblings or the parents play important role in educating the children. So if you have a habit of arguing and then using improper words, so the children will imitate, and it will be like the habit, and then will be habitus, gitu kan. So there are some families who are always speaking in decent words, and also there are family who are very decent, yeah, decent indecent, yeah, decent and indecent, yeah.
Yes.
Kata yang pantas dan tidak pantas, gitu ya. Okay, any questions or Skinner gitu ya. Skinner and Pavlov from the Russian. Sampai jam berapa Mbak Erwina?
Sampai 16.20 Pak.
Ya. Ini sudah lewat berarti?
Iya Pak, sudah lewat.
Ya, oke. So sorry for so time is over ya. Kalau is up kan habis, over itu lewat. So I'll upload the guidelines for your assignment and also for this. So you're supposed to write as usual an article, yeah, and also micro teaching. I suppose I'll try to provide you the steps in Zooming, or I suppose everyone is familiar with the Zoom's cloud meeting gitu ya, using Zoom untuk merekam itu ya, yang okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. See you next week, next Monday. Yeah.
Inshallah.